The message arrived on Earth without warning. Satellites around the planet detected the strange signal first, a pattern too regular to be natural. Scientists worked day and night to decode it, and when they finally did, the world changed forever. "We are the Galactic Confederation. We have been observing your species. We come in peace." Governments worldwide scrambled to prepare for humanity's first contact with alien life. The United Nations quickly formed a special committee, selecting Ambassador Tahoe Kim as Earth's primary representative. A respected diplomat known for his calm demeanor, Tahoe had never imagined his career would lead to greeting beings from another world. The aliens chose Seoul for their landing site. They gave no explanation for this choice, and Earth's leaders didn't question it. Everyone was too busy preparing for the meeting that would change human history. On the morning of the landing, Seoul's sky was clear blue. Tahoe stood on a specially built platform in Olympic Park, surrounded by military personnel and other government officials. His hands trembled slightly, but his face remained composed. Years of diplomatic training had prepared him for tense situations, but nothing could truly prepare anyone for this moment. "It will be fine," whispered his assistant. Tahoe merely nodded. The first sign was a dark spot in the sky, growing larger by the second. The alien ship descended slowly, a massive structure that seemed to bend light around its edges. It was beautiful and terrifying at once. The crowd that had gathered behind security barriers fell silent as the ship hovered 50 meters above the ground. A beam of light shot down from the vessel, and within it materialized three tall beings. Their bodies appeared to be made of some crystalline substance that caught the sunlight and broke it into countless colors. They moved with fluid grace as they approached the human delegation. Tahoe stepped forward, heart pounding. "We welcome peaceful exchange," he said, bowing slightly as the crystalline beings stopped before him. The tallest alien raised what appeared to be an arm. "We accept your greeting, humans of Earth. I am Speaker Lore. We have watched your civilization with great interest." Cameras flashed and recorded every moment. Around the world, billions watched the historic meeting unfold on their screens. What none of them could see was the second alien fleet waiting beyond the moon. What none of them knew was that Admiral Krell of the Dominion faction had already decided Earth's fate long ago. The meeting proceeded peacefully. The aliens spoke of cultural exchange, shared knowledge, and the wonders of the galaxy. They accepted invitations to visit other major cities on Earth. Everyone called it a miracle, a new beginning for humanity. For 3 days, all seemed well. Alien representatives met with world leaders. They shared limited information about space travel and promised more knowledge in time. Markets soared. Religious leaders debated the meaning of alien life. Children everywhere dreamed of visiting the stars. Admiral Krell watched these proceedings from his command ship with cold amusement. The delegation was merely a formality, a way to study Earth's defenses up close. The Dominion faction within the Confederation had identified Earth as a potential threat centuries ago. Humans were resourceful, adaptable, and surprisingly aggressive. Better to bring them under control now, before they developed true space travel. On the 4th day, as Singapore prepared for the alien scheduled visit, Krell gave the order. "Target the city. Show them our power." The weapon fired from orbit was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It didn't explode. It simply erased. In less than 5 seconds, the entire city-state of Singapore, buildings, people, land, disappeared in a flash of blinding light. Where a thriving metropolis of millions had stood, only a perfect, smooth crater remained, extending deep into the earth. The world watched in horror as the footage spread. In Seoul, Tahoe confronted Speaker Lore, who merely smiled. "This is regrettable. A faction within our confederation has acted prematurely, but perhaps it's for the best. You now understand your position in the galaxy." Within hours, alien ships appeared over every major city on Earth. They'd broadcast a simple message: surrender or be erased. In underground bunkers and secret facilities, Earth's leaders gathered. Old enemies became desperate allies. Trust had been misplaced. War had begun. And in a hidden laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean, a scientist named Sunwoo held up a small device recovered from the alien ship that had crashed in Seoul during the initial landing. His eyes gleamed with determination. "We have their technology now," he said to the grim-faced military officers surrounding him. "And they've made a terrible mistake. They should have destroyed us all at once." "Engine output at 70%, reported Lieutenant Ju Park, her fingers flying across the holographic display that filled the air in front of her. The blue light cast shadows across her tired face. She hadn't slept properly in 3 days, but none of them had. Deep within Neptune's swirling clouds, hidden from both Earth and alien eyes, the HSS Vengeance took shape. The massive battleship floated in a carefully maintained pocket of stable gas, surrounded by the planet's eternal storms. Construction drones buzzed around its hull, welding the final armor plates into place. Captain Hyunwoo Lee stood on the observation deck, watching his ship come together. 6 months ago, he had been commanding a nuclear submarine. Now he was in charge of humanity's last hope. "Status report," he called out to the busy control room. "Weapons systems at 85%, called out a technician. Life support fully operational. Shield generators need another 12 hours. Lee nodded, his face showing no emotion. On the screens surrounding him, he could see the surrender negotiations happening back on Earth. President Garcia was signing another document, giving the aliens mining rights to the moon. "Let them have the moon," he muttered. "They'll never see what's coming." The plan had been desperate from the start. While Earth appeared to submit to alien rule, selected scientists, engineers, and military personnel were secretly transported to Neptune. Here, using technology reverse-engineered from the crashed alien ship and humanity's own innovations, they built something the Confederation would never expect. A battleship that could match their own. Captain Lee studied the schematics of their creation floating in the air before him. The Vengeance was smaller than the alien capital ships, but it had advantages they wouldn't expect. The humans had learned quickly. "The Confederation thinks we're beaten," Lee said to his executive officer. "Let them think that while we finish our work." The officer nodded grimly. "The latest report from Earth says they're starting to take down military bases." "Good," Lee said. "Let them think we're completely helpless." Across the solar system, Confederation observers reported that humans were adapting well to their new status. The resistance movements had been crushed or gone silent. Mining operations were extracting valuable minerals from Earth with only minimal human supervision needed. The primitive species appeared to be accepting their place in the galactic hierarchy. None suspected what was happening in Neptune's stormy atmosphere. 6 months passed. The Vengeance was nearly complete. Lieutenant Park was running a final diagnostic on the engine systems when an alarm flashed on her console. She frowned, checking the readings again. "Something's wrong," she called out. "Security breach in the database." Engineer Jimin Cho rushed to her station, his face darkening as he saw the data. He grabbed a communicator and spoke urgently. "Captain, someone accessed the secure database," he reported, face grim in the blue emergency lighting that had automatically engaged. "They downloaded the Vengeance schematics and transmitted. Somewhere." In the command center, Captain Lee slammed his fist on the console. "We have a spy." He immediately ordered a full security lockdown. Guards began checking identification of everyone in the facility. But Lee knew it might already be too late. "How long ago?" he demanded. 20 minutes, Jimin replied. "The transmission was encrypted, but it definitely left our system." Lee made a quick decision. "Begin launch preparations. We're out of time." Across the ship, Dr. Yoon-Ju Song worked frantically in her laboratory. For 3 years, she had been developing the most critical component of the Vengeance, the probability drive. Based on alien technology, but pushed far beyond what the Confederation had achieved, it could theoretically bend space itself. As the security alarms blared, she made her final calculations and activated the drive for its first complete test. The machine hummed to life, a sphere of swirling energy forming in its center. "It works," she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "It actually works." She recorded the final data and was about to report her success when the first explosion rocked the Neptune facility. The blast came from the outer docking bay. Smoke filled the corridors as emergency systems engaged. "They found us," Jimin whispered to Lieutenant Park as they ran toward their battle stations. Throughout the ship, crew members rushed to their positions. Some had never expected to actually fight. They had hoped to have more time. Captain Lee's voice rang through the ship. "All personnel to battle stations. We launch now." The Vengeance's engines roared to life as the construction drones detached. Outside, alien scout ships were already entering Neptune's atmosphere, their weapons charging. "Probability drive online," reported Dr. Song from engineering. "We can make one jump, maybe two." Captain Lee took his place in the command chair. Around him, his crew worked with grim determination. This wasn't how they had planned to reveal themselves, but sometimes plans changed. "Set course for the Confederation fleet gathering at Jupiter," he ordered. "It's time to show them that humanity is not beaten." The Vengeance broke free of its hiding place, rising through Neptune's clouds as enemy fire streaked past it. The battle for Earth's freedom had begun. The alarm blared through the Neptune facility, a sharp, pulsing sound that made everyone freeze. In the command center, Engineer Jimin Cho stared at his screen with growing horror. The security protocols he had personally designed were showing a breach. Someone accessed the secure database, Engineer Jimin reported, his face grim in the blue emergency lighting that had automatically activated. His fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to track the intrusion. They downloaded complete schematics of the Vengeance and our mission plans. Captain Hyun-Woo Lee stood from his chair, the blood draining from his face. For nearly 3 years, they had worked in absolute secrecy. The entire future of humanity depended on the Confederation not discovering their plan until it was too late. "When?" he demanded. 17 minutes ago, Jimin replied. The data was compressed and transmitted on a frequency that mimics our regular atmospheric monitoring signals. Captain Lee slammed his fist on the console, causing several officers to jump. "We have a spy." The realization hit everyone in the command center like a physical blow. Someone they worked with, ate with, someone they trusted, had betrayed them all. Betrayed Earth. "Security teams, begin Level 1 search protocols," Lee ordered. "I want everyone's location accounted for during the time of transmission." Lieutenant Ju Park spoke up from her station. "Captain, if they sent our data to the Confederation fleet at Jupiter, we have maybe 30 minutes before they can dispatch ships to investigate." Lee nodded grimly. "Then we have 30 minutes to find our traitor and prepare for launch." Across the ship, oblivious to the security crisis unfolding, Dr. Yoonju Song worked in her laboratory deep in the engineering section. For 3 years, she had devoted every waking moment to solving what many considered impossible, creating a drive that could manipulate probability fields to allow near-instantaneous travel. The theory had been found in the alien ship that crashed during first contact. The Confederation had the technology but used it in limited ways. Yoonju had pushed it further, reimagining its potential. Final sequence initiated, she muttered to herself as the machine before her hummed with energy. The core of the drive began to glow, first blue, then shifting through colors no human language had names for. The readings on her instruments spiked, then stabilized. The prototype, smaller than the one installed on the Vengeance, created a perfect bubble of altered spacetime. Dr. Song's hands trembled as she recorded the final calculations. She had done it, a functioning probability drive that could bend space itself. With this technology, the Vengeance could appear anywhere in the solar system with no warning. The ultimate surprise attack. She reached for the communication panel to call Captain Lee when the first explosion rocked the Neptune facility. The blast came from the outer docking bay. The entire station shuddered and equipment crashed to the floor around her. Emergency sirens began to wail. "Warning! Perimeter breach detected. Unknown vessels approaching, announced the facility's AI in its calm voice. In the hallway outside her lab, people were running, shouting orders. A young technician stumbled in, his face pale. "Doctor, we need to get to the ship. The Confederation found us." Eunju clutched her data tablet to her chest and ran. The probability drive was installed on the Vengeance, but without these final calculations, it would be useless. Back in the command center, chaos reigned. The main view screen showed 5 Confederation scout ships descending through Neptune's clouds, firing energy weapons that lit up the gas giant's atmosphere. "How did they find us so quickly?" Lieutenant Park shouted over the noise. Jimin's face was ashen as he looked up from his console. The transmission went directly to a cloaked ship just outside Neptune's orbit. "They've been watching us. They've found us," Jimin whispered, the full weight of their situation becoming clear. Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Docking Bay 2 has been breached," reported a security officer. "We have boarders." Captain Lee made the only decision he could. They weren't ready. The Vengeance still needed final testing, but they were out of time. "Evacuate all essential personnel to the ship," he ordered. "Initiate self-destruct protocols for the facility. Nothing can fall into enemy hands." Throughout the station, crew members grabbed what they could and ran for the Vengeance. Some would not make it. Security teams engaged the first wave of alien soldiers, buying time with their lives. Dr. Song sprinted down the final corridor, clutching her precious data. 2 security officers escorted her, firing behind them at crystalline beings that moved with frightening speed. "Go!" one of the officers shouted, pushing her through the airlock onto the ship. He stayed behind, still firing, as the door sealed. Captain Lee's voice rang through the ship. "All personnel to battle stations. We launch now." On the bridge, Lee strapped himself into the command chair as reports flooded in. They had 83% of their planned crew aboard. The rest were either still fighting in the facility or already dead. "Reactor at full power," reported the engineering officer. "Weapons online." "Detach all docking clamps," Lee ordered. "Activate stealth systems." The Vengeance shuddered as it pulled away from the doomed facility. Through the viewport, they could see more Confederation ships descending. Dr. Song burst onto the bridge, breathless. "Captain, I have it. The drive works." For the first time that day, Lee allowed himself a small smile. "Set course for Jupiter. It's time to show the Confederation what humans are truly capable of." As the Neptune facility exploded behind them, the Vengeance disappeared into the depths of space, carrying with it humanity's last hope. The Confederation celebration was truly grand. Thousands of ships gathered in orbit around Jupiter, their hulls gleaming in the gas giant's reflected light. Some were small diplomatic vessels, while others were massive warships that could destroy entire planets. All were here to mark the official annexation of the Sol system into the Galactic Confederation. Inside the flagship, a great hall had been prepared. The room sparkled with decorations of precious metals and strange alien materials that seemed to shift colors as one looked at them. Representatives from over 200 species filled the space, each wearing the distinctive clothing or body modifications of their homeworlds. Admiral Krell moved through the crowd with confidence. His crystalline body towered over most other species, and the metals adorning his form caught the light with every movement. This was his triumph. He had identified the human threat early and dealt with it decisively. "A magnificent gathering," said Counselor Merot, a bulbous creature floating in a gravity bubble. "The Dominion faction must be pleased with this acquisition." "Indeed," Krell replied. "The humans have valuable resources, and their homeworld makes an excellent outpost for our expansion into this sector." What neither mentioned was the real reason for the Dominion's interest in Earth. Human adaptability and aggression had been assessed as potentially dangerous, if allowed to develop unchecked. Better to control them now than face them as equals later. Ambassador Vex of the Central World stood quietly near a viewport, watching the gathered ships. Unlike Krell, Vex had argued for patience with the humans. His faction had lost that debate after the Neptune facility was discovered. The destruction of Singapore had been unnecessary, in his view, but the Dominion had always preferred displays of force. A signal chimed, indicating the ceremony was about to begin. The gathered dignitaries took their places in the Great Hall. Admiral Krell stepped onto the raised platform. Behind him, a massive display showed Earth, now dotted with Confederation mining operations and military bases. Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Confederation, Krell began, his voice resonating through the hall. Today marks a historic occasion, the successful integration of yet another primitive. An alarm cut through his speech. Harsh and insistent, it caused immediate confusion among the gathered dignitaries. Many had never heard a Confederation alert signal before. "What is happening?" demanded a representative from the outer systems. On the great display behind Krell, the image changed. It now showed the space directly between the gathered ships of the Confederation fleet. Something strange was occurring there. Reality itself seemed to tear open. The very fabric of space twisted and stretched, forming what looked like a wound in the emptiness. Officers rushed to their stations as sensors throughout the fleet registered impossible readings. From the impossible rift emerged a vessel. It glided forward smoothly, revealing a design that was unmistakably human, yet unlike anything the Confederation had encountered before. It was smaller than the Confederation's largest warships, but sleeker, with lines that suggested both power and precision. "Impossible," breathed Ambassador Vex of the Central Worlds, moving closer to the viewport for a better look. They were defeated. Krell stood frozen on the platform, his crystalline form reflecting the red alert lights now flashing throughout the hall. "The Neptune facility was destroyed," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "Our forces confirmed no survivors." On the command bridge of his flagship, officers scrambled to respond. "Unknown vessel has appeared in the center of the fleet," reported a sensor operator. It's using technology similar to our probability drives, but far more advanced." "Weapons status," demanded the fleet commander. "The vessel has not powered weapons, but our scans can't penetrate its hull. We have no idea what its capabilities are." Throughout the fleet, gunners rushed to battle stations. 2,000 ships, the pride of the Confederation, all suddenly on high alert because of a single human vessel. In the Great Hall, the display now showed a clear image of the ship. Along its side, in Earth writing, was the name HSS Vengeance. A communication request flashed on the system. After a moment's hesitation, Krell nodded for it to be accepted. The image of a human appeared on the screen. Captain Hyunwoo Lee sat calmly in his command chair, his uniform crisp and formal. "Greetings, Admiral Krell," the human said, his voice level. "I hope we're not interrupting your celebration." "How did you?" Krell began, then composed himself. "Your ship is impressive, human, but one vessel cannot stand against our fleet." Captain Lee smiled slightly. "Perhaps, but before you give the order to fire, you might want to check the status of your flagship's engine core, and your shields, and your weapon systems." Throughout the Great Hall, data screens began to flash with alerts from ships across the fleet. Somehow, critical systems were failing on multiple vessels simultaneously. "What have you done?" Krell demanded. "We've been learning from you," Lee replied. "For 3 years, while you thought us beaten and broken, we studied your technology. And in some ways, we've surpassed it." The HSS Vengeance moved gracefully between the confused Confederation ships, completely untouched by the few weapons that managed to fire. "The Vengeance carries evidence of your unprovoked attack on Singapore," Captain Lee continued. Evidence were now broadcasting to every member of the Confederation. The truth about how this war began. In the Great Hall, Ambassador Vex turned to Krell, his eyes narrowing. "What is he talking about, Admiral?" The HSS Vengeance had arrived, and with it, humanity's reckoning had begun. "This is Captain Hyunwoo Lee of Earth, The transmission rang across all frequencies, reaching every ship in the Confederation fleet. His face appeared on screens throughout the gathered vessels. "We have evidence of Admiral Krell's unprovoked attack on Singapore." In the grand hall of the flagship, chaos erupted. Dignitaries from across the galaxy pushed and shoved to see the main display. Admiral Krell stood rigid, his crystalline form reflecting the emergency lights. "This is human deception," Krell announced, but his voice lacked conviction. "Their ship must be destroyed immediately." On the command bridge, officers rushed to comply, but systems failed as they tried to target the human vessel. Unknown to them, Dr. Yunju Song's team had spent months creating specialized disruptors that could temporarily disable Confederation technology. The Vengeance's weapons remained powered but unfired as the evidence played for all assembled species to witness. The recording was damning. Admiral Krell speaking with his officers before the Singapore attack, explicitly stating that humans must be broken through fear before they could develop space travel. "The Dominion faction has lied to us all," said Ambassador Vex, stepping forward. "This was never about protecting the Confederation from a primitive threat. This was about resource acquisition and military expansion." Throughout the fleet, ships began to realign themselves. The Central World's vessels and those from the outer systems moved away from the Dominion ships, creating clear battle lines. Aboard the Vengeance, Captain Lee watched the situation unfold with Lieutenant Ju Park at his side. "It's working," she whispered. "They're turning against each other." Lee nodded grimly. "The Confederation isn't as united as they wanted us to believe, just as our intelligence suggested." The Vengeance moved with impossible grace through the confused fleet. When Dominion ships managed to fire, the human vessel simply vanished, its probability drive allowing it to appear and disappear at will, always one step ahead of Krell's desperate counterattacks. "How are they doing this?" demanded a Dominion commander. "Their technology shouldn't be this advanced." In the engineering section of the Vengeance, Dr. Yunju Song monitored the probability drive with intense focus. The calculations she had completed just before their escape from Neptune were working perfectly. The ship could make micro-jumps through space, appearing to teleport short distances instantly. "Captain, we can maintain this for another 42 minutes before requiring a cool-down period," she reported through the comm system. "Understood," Lee replied. "That should be enough time." On the flagship, Admiral Krell realized his position was deteriorating rapidly. The evidence was too clear to deny, and too many Confederation species had grown suspicious of the Dominion's expanding power already. "The humans have manipulated this footage," he tried again, addressing the gathered representatives. "They are more deceptive than we realized." Ambassador Vex stepped closer to the Admiral, his voice cold. "I was there when you planned the attack, Krell. I objected, but was overruled. Do not compound your crimes with more lies." Throughout the fleet, ships were taking sides. The balance of power was shifting minute by minute. Within hours, the Dominion faction was surrounded by their own Confederation allies. What had begun as a celebration had transformed into a standoff that threatened to split the Confederation apart. "Admiral Krell," came Captain Lee's voice again, "the Vengeance carries enough firepower to destroy your flagship. We also have 11 more ships like this one hidden throughout the solar system, each targeting key Dominion worlds." This was a bluff. There were no other ships, but the aliens had no way to verify this claim. The appearance of even one such advanced human vessel had been impossible in their understanding. "What do you want?" asked the Confederation Council leader, a neutral party who had remained silent until now.